Everyone.
That's pretty good for me.
Oh,
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. It's time to call February the 6th, 2023. It is time to call the city council meeting to order. Ms. Rhodes, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Austin.
Here.
Mr. Hukin.
Here.
Ms. McGinnis.
here.
Ms. Nally.
Here.
Ms. Price.
Here.
Mr. Prine.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Sir, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hukin, will you say the prayer and pledge, please?
Sure. Heavenly Father, we would reverently invoke your blessing upon this meeting this evening. We would ask that this meeting be, as begun in order, may be conducted in peace and closed in harmony. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I use the word harmony with a little
It's awesome salutes.
That's awesome.
goosey there.
Okay, again, thank everyone for attending tonight, and I see that we have a Boy Scout troop here. Can somebody kind of introduce us with what it's about and maybe,
This is Boy Scout Troop 228 here in Franklin. We meet at Grace United Methodist Church, and we are earning the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge. And one of the requirements is to attend a meeting where we can learn how our local government attacks issues.
okay. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
coming.
you, and welcome. Okay, so we'll start off with the first item. This is our 200th bicentennial celebration tonight, so we're going to do a proclamation to officially get the bicentennial celebration started. So, put my glasses on this time. So, a proclamation in honor and recognition of the City of Franklin bicentennial celebration. Whereas the City of Franklin, Indiana celebrates its bicentennial in the year 2023, and it is fitting to recognize the individuals, organizations, and businesses that have contributed to the growth and development of the City of Franklin. And whereas the City of Franklin, after being founded in 1823, consisted of approximately 40 platted acres and included a population of 250 persons, and today celebrating the City of Franklin having over 9,800 acres and comprised of over 25,000 residents. And whereas the City of Franklin honors the history of local schools, churches, businesses, and organizations that laid the city's foundation, as well as acknowledging those same entities that today are helping to shape our future. And whereas the City of Franklin has a rich heritage with roots in agriculture, railroad, and commerce, while recognizing the backbone of the City of Franklin has always and will continue to rest on its people, who exhibit an enterprising spirit and drive to succeed that is still evident today. And whereas the City of Franklin will proudly mark this bicentennial year with a wide variety of activities and events that will highlight the commemorative year by exploring our past, engaging our present, and envisioning our future. And whereas we encourage our residents to participate as we come together, honoring our history, appreciating the arts, enjoying our festivals, and valuing all that makes the City of Franklin the best place to live and work and play for a lifetime. Now, therefore, I, Steve D. Barnett, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Franklin, Johnson County, Indiana, now hereby recognize the special milestone and proclaim the year 2023 as the bicentennial year celebration for the City of Franklin, Indiana. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my signature and cause the corporate seal of the municipality to be fixed on the 6th of February 2023. There you go. Officially started, bicentennial. And I will be saying that, reading that probably again at our State of the City address. Hopefully it doesn't last an hour. That's a joke, okay. Okay, thank you. Next on the list, we have a presentation on the Roundabout project with the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council. They just did this at Board of Works, but we have a different group here in the audience, so you're up. Thank you.
Hello, we are the Franklin Mayor's Youth Leadership Council. We are a student-led organization made up of Franklin Community High School students who work alongside Mayor Barnett to help better both our school and our community. I'm Maggie Woods, and I'm president of the council, and I'm here presenting today with Morgan Harvey, Emma Williams, Liam Clark, who's vice president, and Jolie Ingelau, who's secretary. And we also have multiple members in the audience and sitting. So I'd now like to turn it over to Emma to fill you in on some of our past projects that we have worked on and completed.
Hi. Okay, so one of our first projects that we completed is the flag of Franklin that is sitting right there. And then we also attend the AIM conference several times. We've attended it several times throughout being founded. And we also installed the all-inclusive playground, in which we fundraised $100,000 of the $300,000 that we needed to complete this project. We also installed water bottle refilling stations throughout our school. And then 2 years ago, we installed the Safe Haven Baby Box by the fire station by the interstate, and we painted electrical boxes, and ours is right in front of the Willard and the Art Craft. And then we also reached out to the community and asked them for help to collect items for the Afghan Refuge camp at Camp Atterbury, and we donated those items. And then we are currently working on a Wi-Fi project, and we started that last year, and we'll finish that up in the spring, and then the sculpture for the roundabout project.
Yeah, so to give you some basic information on this year's project, it started last year, and Mr. Ahaus reached out to us and wanted us to design the sculpture that would be going in the middle, and we had a lot of ideas within our own council, but we wanted to open it up to the students, so we sent them a form, and they submitted their ideas and designs. This roundabout sculpture will be located on Cumberland and Commerce in the four-way stop right in front of our high school, and of course, in this project, we're working with Mayor Barnett and Tara, the president of Crossroads Engineers Trent Newport, and most recently, Indiana artist Arlon Bayless.
So as Jolie mentioned, we are working with the artist Arlon. He was trained at the Royal College of Art in London, England, and he specialized in glass blowing. So he brought his talents to the United States and created a glass blowing program at the University of Anderson. Some of his past projects include the Crystal Arch in Anderson, Indiana, and Flightwave, which is at the airport when you're leaving TSA and security. You can see that glass. And he has recently worked on the Kawaki River of Light, which is a 400-foot sculpture located at Circle City Mall. So as you can see, Arlon has worked on multiple incredible projects in the past, and we've mostly been working with him to create our original concept, which Jolie will show you afterwards, to create a more realistic project moving forward.
So as I said before, we opened up the design to our students, and almost every student wanted a bear involved or a tree in the four components of our school, like the grade levels, or the elementary school, intermediate school, middle school, and high school aspects. So this was our original design, designed by our treasurer, Mia Tisdale, and we decided that we wanted to have 4 bears with a tree in the middle. And then we sent this design to Arlon, and he gave us our current design, which is including the tulip tree, our state tree, and we wanted to incorporate some symbols representing our school, which will be in the negative space, and cutouts of the tree, and eventually wanted to incorporate some glass and lights because that's his specialty, and hopefully it'll turn out great.
Yes, there will be.
So we laid out the big idea for you. Now I'm going to lay out the specific timeline. And so in the fall, we started meeting with our artist Arlon, and we came up with initial designs which were approved by a professional engineer and given to Crossroad Engineers, which will be building the roundabout. And then this past month of January, we discussed and signed a contract. And so students began to meet with Arlon in smaller groups to make sure our design vision as a council was implemented in the design process. And the mayor and Tara went to Bomar Industries, which will be the ones fabricating the sculpture, and they took a tour of the facility and determined that they would be able to bring our vision to life. Now, in the future, through February and March, we will continue to meet with Arlon, continue to have individual meetings with him. And FMYLC, the council ourselves, we will go and visit Bomar, the fabricator, just to see the process and learn about it. And then our designs will become final drawings, which will then be fabricated throughout March and July. And then in June, they will put the test sculpture together inside the facility to make sure it all works and start experimenting with some of those lighting elements we want to include. And then finally, at the end of the summer, after the roundabout is completed on July 31st, 2023, we will deliver the artwork to the site and set up the lighting, and the project will be finished.
So what exactly are the benefits to this project? One, it increases safety on the roads. It helps students and other people get off their phone, make sure they're looking up, and make sure that they're approaching a roundabout so that they can go through it safely. Also, it will prevent traffic from being backed up on 31 at the end of the school day. That four-way stop is always super backed up. It's super hard for students to get through and get to 31, and for people from 31 to come into the school. In addition, it also just fits the aesthetic of our school, and it makes our school attractive. Franklin Mayor's Youth Leadership has always done a good job of putting art into our community, and we want to continue doing that. At the end of the project, we'll have a ribbon cutting for the roundabout as well.
So $300,000 is the top limit of the price of the project, and that covers the actual fabrication at Bomar and the design process by the artist Arlon, and he has worked with them several times in the past. And that covers the original design process that we began with our contributions, then the installation of the fabrication of the actual tree at Bomar, but then they'll disassemble it and bring it to the roundabout site. And that also covers the reconstruction of the tree at the actual site. So our goal is to try to raise as much money as we can as the Mayor's Youth Council to cover our share of this, and then the rest will be up to you guys in the city. So we'll try to get as much as we can.
Overall, the Franklin Mayor Youth Leadership Council believes that you can't put a price on education or experience. We're extremely excited to continue on pursuing this project, not just to better our schools, but our entire community. Thank you for allowing us to present to you tonight. Can I take any questions?
Can I make a couple comments?
Yes.
So first off, I want Emma to tell the crowd what you told me about the roundabout saved you, 4 minutes getting to school? Mm-hmm. She told me she gets to sleep in 4 minutes longer because the roundabout. So I thought that was pretty nice. The other one is, I want to make the comment, because Lynn asked me this question about, are there going to be the bears? There's not going to be the bears standing on the ground, but it's our understanding there'd be images of the bears up in the trees. And that's part of this, the artwork, is how they do that. And whenever they get the light shine through it, it stands out at you. So that's where the bears is coming to. And the reason they didn't want to put them on the ground because of the wind load, they said it would turn out not very well that way. So that is why it's designed this way with the fabricator. I just wanted to clarify that with you guys, so down the road, if somebody asks you, is there going to be the bears there, they're not going to be standing beside the tree, they'll actually be up in the tree. That's your understanding, right, Tara?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else got any questions for the kids? Go for it, for the young adults. And tonight at the Board of Works, we did pass the contract with the firm, and we were asked at the Board of Works, okay, if the kids don't raise the money, where do we get the funds? And that's a good legitimate question. We have the RDC is available, we have the edit funds, and we also have the Board of Works. So we got three different places that we can go to when the time comes of what makes the most sense. So,
I heard him say they were gonna raise 300,000.
That's what I heard.
Sounds good.
Need a job at the Parks Department, go out there.
Also, bear in mind, we did the playground project a couple years back, and we covered 100,000 of the 300,000. So
right.
we have a reputation of raising the money at least a third. So
You do know this is on, right? This is being recorded, yeah, it's being recorded, all right, gotcha.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you, guys. You do a great job, and I do appreciate what you do in the community. And I know Tara and I, we enjoy the Mayor's Youth Council. So keep up the good work. Okay. Is there any other announcements, presentations, or public comment that's not on the agenda that someone would like to speak? You got something? He's leaving? Okay. All right, we'll go on to the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda from the minutes from January 18, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There isn't any old business. We'll go right into new business.
Move to read new business by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by McGinnis for title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. The introduction of Common Council Ordinance Number 2023-01, clarifying Ordinance 2015-04, City Attorney Lynn Gray and Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes.
Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, I think I need to step down there so that these fine folks aren't looking at the side of my head, if you
Okay,
will.
sure.
And Clerk Treasurer, I appreciate getting to go after these nice young people, talking about art, and I'm gonna talk about budgets and longevity. Thank you for putting me right behind them. I appreciate it. You have before you, for introduction purposes only, a clarifying ordinance. And it struck me in dealing, in talking with Jane, that I don't believe any of you were council members when this first, in the last amendment, but when this first started. And I thought, in all fairness to you, in order to be able to make a decision about what we're asking you to do now, you really need to know the entire history of how we got to here we are, where we are, and what these ordinances are. So, Jane was kind enough to give me lots of copies of ordinances, lots of statistics and things like that. So, back in 1981, the city had, for its police officers, and in 1991, they had a similar program for their firefighters, a longevity program. And what that means is, in addition to the council-designated compensation that public service officers received, is they also got a longevity payment every year based upon the number of years that they served the city. Of course, in 1981 and 1991, the city looked a lot different than it does today, and the number of officers that we had, the number of facilities that we have, were remarkably similar. In 2002, Mayor Norm Blankenship, ironically a public service officer, came to the council under his leadership with the mayor, as being the mayor, and made the determination in support of the council that the longevity program as it was designed simply was unsustainable. And what I mean by that is the way that it was set up in its 2002, in the ordinances prior to 2002, is that for every year someone was here after the first year, they got a percentage payment on top of what their compensation was. The old program gave you 2% of your compensation in your second year, 5% in your 5 year. Each year you went up, you got another percentage, all the way up to 30% of your salary for 30 years of service. So this was in addition to the compensation. At that point in time, it was clear to Mayor Blankenship and unanimously clear to the council that it simply couldn't work the city would literally, I believe the minutes indicate, would go bankrupt if that program were to continue. So as a result of that, in 2002, the new longevity plan was put into place, and ordinance number 0210 was adopted. You can tell from the ordinance numbers, 0210 meant that in October of 2002, a revised longevity ordinance was adopted. And what was done in 02 and 10 was all police and fire persons that were employed as of 12/31/02 stayed under the old plan, and all of our employees, not just our public service employees, including our civilians, then got a new plan that was for $100 for each year of employment, not to exceed $1,000. The old longevity plan was paid to those officers on two times during the year, and the new longevity plan would be paid to officers one time, or to all of our employees one time with their first full paycheck in January. To put the numbers in perspective for you, the budget for just longevity in 2002, before there were any amendments, was $283,546. So you had your salaries, and then you had that just for your longevity. Even after the change, where we no longer brought in new people and the civilians didn't receive longevity, our budget climbed in 2013 to $320,451 for 41 people that were on that plan in 2013. In 2014, it climbed to $332,000. And in 2023, with only 19 people still on the old plan, we still budget $290,570. So it doesn't take anybody much math skills to figure out that if you continued to have everybody on the plan, it simply meant the budget would be for longevity more than the budgets for many of our other departments. And so that's why the 2005, or the 02 ordinance was adopted. It stayed in place until an ordinance was adopted in 2008. In 2008, there was a minor change made, and that was when Fred Paris was on the board. I believe Joe Alt was probably our last holdover from my time with the board, was on the council at that time. And they amended it very slightly to change the time that the civilians' longevities were determined to be. Instead of our first ordinance, it said it was done in July and January. The 08 ordinance changed it to be reviewed in June and December. Quite frankly, it was to assist the clerk treasurer's office in when they would be able to pay it in the January of the first year. But otherwise, it stayed in place. So from 02 to the amendment in 08, which is the one you're being asked to clarify, then we fast forward to 2015. In 2015, and to be frank, after the old system was gone, we still had some people under that, and we still today. And the new folks occasionally would be upset about it because it's a substantial difference in money. Now, of course, salaries have risen, but the longevity can sometimes be a pretty good chunk of change for some of our employees that have been here for a long time. So in 2015, when Joe McGinnis was the mayor, he was approached, and at this point I do have a specific recollection, he was approached by some of the people in the public safety department who, quite frankly, inquired as to whether or not they would bring back the old plan from pre-2002. I reached out to Joe because I wanted to make sure that my recollection of those conversations was consistent with his, and it is. And he did some math and looked at it, and if we were to, at that time, go back to the old longevity program for the public service, we would be looking at close to $800,000 a year, and the answer was simply, we can't do it. It's not possible. At that time, Council President Austin, Mayor Barnett, who was then Council President, and Joe and myself met with some of the representatives at the time and expressed why it was not something that was feasible for the city to do and still be able to build roads, have parks, do some of the infrastructure improvements that we wanted to do, and do some of the other planning that we had. The council at that time, with the support of the mayor, did agree, somewhat, I would say, from a compromise standpoint, offer an incentive bonus, or an incentive pay, if you will, at 20 years for someone who stayed in our public service department. On the 20th anniversary, they would receive a one-time 20% of their salary in their 20th year, after the 20th year, paid in the 21st year. And that was to be a one-time incentive bonus. We called it longevity because that was consistent with the history, and that was what was in the ordinance. So if you track the ordinance, we just kept the same program and called it longevity, but it was a one-time incentive bonus. That is the ordinance that you have currently. It is 2015-04. In 2023, this year, our first public safety officer is eligible to receive that bonus, or I shouldn't say bonus, that incentive pay that we did, because if you remember, 02 is when we went to the new program. So after 20 years, in 2023, we would now be paying out the first 20% on the new longevity program. And that's what brought us to this point on why we're doing clarifications. Just as an aside, so I can kind of give you some grasp of what the money would be in terms, the amount this year for someone getting that one-time a bonus at 20 years is $12,800, because what it is based upon is what the first class patrolman or firefighter is receiving in that year. It's 20% of that. So this year, it's $12,800. For comparison purposes, for our 2023 budget, I thought it would be important for you to also know that we have 19 people in the old plan being 02. Of those, for those 19 people, we budgeted this year $290,570. We also have 171 folks that are on the new plan. Those are our other public safety officials and our civilian employees. The incentive for those 171 people totals $140,800. So for 140, we're paying 171 people. For the 19, it's 290. If I extrapolate out what would have happened had we not changed to keep our public service the way that our public servants the way that it was, it would have cost the city $1.6 million for their longevity bonuses, and it would cost in total $2.9 million to include all of our civil employees. Not feasible, and be able to do everything else that we needed to do. So, in January, when we began preparations to pay our first longevity payment for the 20-year, the clerk treasurer and one of her staff, right after the first year, began receiving inquiries, leading Jane and staff to believe that there were certain folks on this program that believed once they received the first 20% at the 20-year, they would receive that each year thereafter. And they believed that perhaps there were some legal precedent for that, and it caused Jane and her staff to be somewhat concerned, hence they called me. When they called me, we looked into it because no one could share with us exactly what their legal basis for that position was. But I did some legal research, and I think I may have determined where some confusion may have occurred and why I don't believe that to be the accurate interpretation of the law. Shared it with Jane, and now I'm going to share it with you and share it with the public in general. In addition, after the legal research, I had to kind of put it into context, if you will. In addition to the compensation and the longevity that we pay to our employees, which is granted pursuant to your budgeting for your budgeting purposes. It's established by the mayor, approved by the council, and paid in accordance with our ordinances and with our policy. In addition to that, all of our employees are participants in PERF, Public Employee Retirement Fund. PERF is administered by an organization called the IMPERS, is what it's called, and it's called the Indiana Public Retirement System. They manage the retirement benefits of PERF. That's a separate, if you will, benefit that employees across the state that are public employees receive. And they determine what kind of contributions each unit, being a municipality, a county, or anything, have to contribute to PERF to keep PERF afloat. And it's really an actuarial analysis that occurs. And they share with the clerk treasurer's office each year how much they think the unit has to contribute and how much the employees contribute so that PERF can be adequately funded at that level. That is not administered by us, that's administered by the state, but it is a benefit. When you look at the PERF statutes, they have different definitions than what our policies and our ordinance have. And it's not uncommon in the law for the term in one context to be different than it is in another context. Real simple. What's an adult? Well, an adult for purposes of contracting is 18. An adult for purposes of paying child support is 19. An adult for purposes of going into a bar is 21. So the same term can be different things depending on what area of the law you're talking about. In 2021, effective 2022, the legislature changed the categories of law applicable to PERF to include a provision that says, and I want to make sure that I get it right, if a unit that participates in the 1977 fund provides longevity increases, the amount of the longevity increase provided in a year must be greater than or equal to the amount of the longevity increase provided in the previous year. Now remember the context for which this law was changed. It was changed for PERF to make sure that their funding actuarially is there so that employees who retire can always have it. It was not changed in council requirements, and I don't believe that PERF can tell us what we have to pay any of our employees if that's not consistent with our compensation plans. But because it's so significant and can be so important, that was my legal interpretation. I think others may have, out of context, thought, oh, if we get this one-time longevity pay, they've got to pay the longevity forever. That is not how I interpret the statutes at all. But I felt it prudent, given the amount of money that we're talking about, to reach a second opinion. So with the clerk treasurer's blessing, we reached out to Bose, McKinney, and Evans and said, what do you think this means? They agreed with our interpretation. They said under no set of circumstances can they see that PERF analysis would translate over to council analysis. It's really apples and oranges. It's completely different terms. They did suggest, however, that we do a clarifying amendment, if you are clarifying ordinance, to make sure that what I believe to be the case, and I think Mayor and Councilman Austin can chime in on this, what I believe the case, it was intended to be a one-time payment. It was intended, and rather than being technically longevity for purposes, was really intended to be an incentive payment for compensation purposes. And so that's the ordinance that is before you. It is before you simply to clarify that intent, to make sure that continues to be the intent of the council, and it will be open for public hearing at our next regularly scheduled meeting. But I thought without knowing the background, it would be very hard to understand the context by which it comes to you, because it did change over time. I was asked by some of the, and we still, this year we'll have 3 that will be getting the 20 years. Next year, I believe, Jane, your staff was kind enough to tell me, I think next year we may have up to 6, and then it changes. We still have 19 on the the prior 202 plan, and of course that changes as retirements and things. But I was asked by someone in the old plan what impact this ordinance would have on what we certify to PERF. What I mean by that, one of the clerk treasurer's duties every year in January is to certify to PERF what our salaries are, and those salaries are to include, it's called a certification, those certification of police pay and certification of fire pay. We have to certify that to PERF so they can make their calculations. We certify, the city or town has established blank to be the base salary of the first-class patrolman for a calendar year, and the maximum longevity pay for 20 years is provided in the amount of blank. Even after the 2002 amendment, the clerk treasurer's office has always certified the higher amount under the old program, and that will not change. Because as long as we still have someone who is getting the old longevity pay, that's the certification that we sent. That's the one we sent 2003, it's the one we sent in 2021 and 22. They don't do it manually, it's registered now online. So that will not change, it should not impact our old folks at all, and it certainly doesn't impact our new folks. But with that, I can answer any questions for you and we'll have a public hearing, but I was hopeful by taking this time, it puts it into context for anyone that has any questions out there.
Lynn, can you clarify for me? So you said that the incentive payment is equal to the 20%. Is it of the officers or firefighters' wages at the time?
Yes.
Or is it the 20% of the first,
At the time.
at the time?
It, well, it's defined as, and the word first in there is of a first-class firefighter. So that's why you say at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, so this year, our first-class firefighter, that's why the number is 12,800. And as you raise salaries, that number will change for people into the future.
Okay.
Yeah. So we take a first-class firefighter or a first-class policeman, and then that's that 20% calculated.
Okay.
There is still in place for all the civilians and the public safety officials who are not under the old plan and haven't gotten to the 20 years. They participate in the $100 per year up to a max of $1,000. That was the part of the ordinance that was done in, I think, what was done in 2002 when we went away from the old plan. So they still get that, but on the 20th year, they get one payment, and that's why the ordinance says that you don't get the 100 for every year of service up to 1,000. You get one payment of 20% of a then first-class firefighter or first-class policeman. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for the history lesson, but it doesn't make sense, I don't think, unless you realize the history.
That was a good job. You'd think you were in court quite a bit or something.
I argue for a living, right?
You just nailed that.
Okay,
Because
so,
it is complex.
It is complex.
yeah, so this one is duly introduced, and if the councilman, it will be open for public hearing. So if you come up with some questions or anybody in the audience, next meeting on the 22nd, which is a Wednesday, Bob Hukin needs to know that, that we can ask the questions then.
And for our employees, I'm happy to speak with anybody. Like I said, the ordinance clarification, Mayor, was drafted by Bose McKinney. I asked them to do that because I was present during those last meetings, and I wanted another set of eyes on it to see it. If you just read it, is that how you interpret it? And they interpreted the same way. So I had them prepare it, and this clarifies it.
And I'll just add that I was in the meeting with Joe when this happened. I'm not sure that Kenny was there. You may have been. But
I was
know
on the
he
council,
he was
but
on
not
the
at the
council,
meeting.
But I was in that meeting, and how Ms. Gray explained it is exactly how it was intended to be. So thank you for that. All right, we'll go on to item number 2, budgetary ordinance number 23-01, authorizing an additional appropriation for the non-tax supported funds. Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes. And Jane, is this one introduction only? Or can we do this one tonight?
It can be done tonight.
It's a budgetary ordinance. It's an ordinance. Yeah, we need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jane, do you want to explain what that one is? It's,
These are basically all the donations and grants that we get through the year. Some of them are old, as Chip will tell you, and some some of them are current ones, but in the last several years, we have decided to go ahead and appropriate all of it at once, so that when they do want to spend it, because a lot of them are specific to a certain item. So when they do want to spend it, it doesn't take them 2 meetings to come, the money is available.
So we're introduced. Does anybody have any questions tonight, or we can do it next meeting? All right, next item, and we can take action on this one tonight. The next one is budgetary resolution number 23-01, transfer from general fund to the rainy day fund.
We can take action.
Okay. So I kind of, it's on the agenda, and I think your thing went down. Well, I'm glad I printed this out. It's the same thing that's on, that was online, and I printed this out so we can see it a little better. So what we want to do, if you look at the money that was left over from last year, I don't want to say left over, it wasn't left over, it just wasn't spent. It was the $2,130,185.21. So the reason that that is that way, there's a couple reasons. One, if later on, I think the next item or two here, we're going to talk about encumbrances. We encumbered $1.3 million of projects that has already been started but hadn't been paid out yet. So that's one of the reasons that we have that kind of money left over. And the other reason that we could be is if you look at, down at the bottom at the rainy day fund where I have, right now there's $4 million in it. If you look back at 2017, we had 4.5 and then 4.2 last year. Every year I think we get to spending, which is okay. We spend some of the money out of the rainy day fund, which is perfectly fine, and we don't take every time out of the Board of Works fund. So that's why we end up with a little bit more than what we probably should in the Board of Works. However, so this year is why I'm wanting to transfer the $1 million back to the rainy day fund to get our rainy day fund back up to where it was at one time. And this is the year to catch that up. Next week, our next meeting on the 22nd, we'll probably come back with an introduction ordinance of the $1.1 million that's remaining in the general fund to go back into the Board of Works to help pay for some of these projects that I gave you the project list last year. And we have done this way for the last, I think, 4 years now. We've done it this way, and that's going to be what the ask is. So anyway, tonight's main objective is to transfer the $1 million into the rainy day fund. And why we get to spend it out of the rainy day fund, we appropriate $500,000 every year that could be spent. And I think sometimes we will spend out of the rainy day fund what I got ready to talk about earlier. We would go ahead and pay it out of that rainy day fund, and we don't have to really do that if we can use the other funds in the Board of Works. So that's where we're at with it. Any questions for me? Okay, if there isn't any questions, we can take action tonight.
I move to approve budget ordinance or resolution 2301.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will go on to the next item. Request to declare stale dated checks canceled. Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes.
Yes, I believe there is a spreadsheet that you can see that shows the state gives us the authority to cancel void checks that have been out there for 2 years, and we can put them back into the fund that they came out of.
And we can take action on this one tonight.
Yes, we can. I'm just curious, Jane, so we wrote a $936 check to somebody who never cashed it?
Yeah.
Wasn't my office, was it? All right. Double check.
You're a lawyer.
I know.
You would have guessed it.
Okay, I think we're ready for action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, thank you. And there isn't any other business, so we'll go to council member comments. And I usually always start at my left. I think I'll go to the right and start with Maya. Maya, just tell
Did you-
everybody your name and just a little update. I know you guys just did a great presentation, so
Oh, well, yeah,
Mayor?
don't we have the list of
You got a
encumbrances?
list encumbrances?
I thought we just did that.
No, we did the checks.
Just
Okay.
the checks.
Maya, hold off a minute. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Request approval of encumbrances carried over to 2023, Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes.
Yes, as you see, these are the encumbrances that each department brought forward to my department. Monies that we can, projects that weren't either finished, they had to have a contract. You just can't encumber money without either a contract or an invoice that is going to be need to be paid. So these are all contracts mainly of things that weren't finished last year. So we carry that money over.
And that is one of the reasons, again, like in the Board of Works, if we would have done all these projects that we had contracted out, then we would have been close to zero at the Board of Works. So that's where that's at.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second by Ms. Nally. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now, Maya. Gave you a little time to think, didn't it? So Maya is our treasurer, or secretary, is that?
Treasurer.
You're the treasurer. Been on the council, this is your first year,
This is my second year.
your second year, and this is your, part of your design that you started with. I think everybody's pretty proud of that, so.
Yes, I was the artist that drafted the first sketch that we sent to Arlon Bayless, the one with the 4 bears. It was my job to compile the thoughts of the council and as well as some submissions from high schoolers and middle schoolers that we got for the project. I tried my best to incorporate several ideas, including the bears that will be included within the negative space of our project. Those bears symbolize the 4 schools within Franklin Community High Schools, the elementary school, intermediate school, middle school, and high school. And so we hope to incorporate similar symbols throughout the tree. I think those are all the notes I have on that project, but I was told to thank the mayor and Tara for their contribution to the new shirts that we received today. But other than that, that's all I have.
And I've been corrected, it's Mia, not Maya. So,
It is Mia. It's, you can,
okay. Jennifer?
Nothing.
Irene?
No, nothing for me.
Bob?
No remarks, thank you.
Sean?
Nothing tonight, sir?
Ken?
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Josh?
Well, I will, since nobody else is. No, real quick, I want to thank the Mayor's Youth Council. I think they did a great job doing the presentation tonight, so kudos to them. Also want to thank the troop for coming out tonight. I know that Merit Badge is a great avenue of learning and everything, and this is a great meeting to kind of listen on that stuff, so.
Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
Thank you, Josh. Tara, do you have anything?
Nope, just, well, the, State of the City is Thursday. It starts at 11:30 and the doors open at 11. If you don't have reservations, I am going to be live streaming it on Facebook, so you can watch it there.
Can't wait for Franklin City Chat to get a hold of that. Jane, do you have anything? Bob?
What's the over-under on minutes? What's the betters doing right now?
Okay, Jane, do you have anything? Lynn?
I've utilized my word limit, thank you.
Okay, and I don't have anything else either. Does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Kenny Austin, second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.